Bitch!
Welcome to Imaginary Friendcast. This is episode number 260. This is a conversation socially distanced best friends, and we are those best friends.
I am Nathan Von.
Oh, shit buckets. Wait, say it again, Nathan. Go ahead.
Betty Davis Jr.
Oh, Jesus Christ. And I'm DavidMaster.com.
Wow, you screwed that one up, David.
I screwed the pooch on that one.
Wow. So today, welcome everyone. It's great to see you all. We had a whole other episode planned for today, but that was before a mob of violent podcast listeners stormed into our studio, demanded that we cover the insurrection of the Capitol. We tried to explain to them that we try to stay away from political topics because after 2016, it almost ended the entire podcast, but they were insistent. So here we are. The people have spoken, and tonight we're going to cover the really important highlights of what went down last week on January 6th at the Capitol. And then we're going to dig into the right and left points of view and kind of figure out where to go from here as a country, if there is anywhere to go from here.
If there is.
But first.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, God. Oh, Jesus. Wait. Hold on.
Nope. No, not yet.
Oh, shoot. Oh, Jesus. Oh. Wait. Oh, God. God, it's so hard.
It's breaking news. I'll go first. Anybody have an objection to that?
Go first.
No, go ahead. I just want to say it's really hard to single-handedly produce and, just go ahead. Go ahead.
So my news is that already, so 2 weeks ago when we last live streamed, we gave our New Year's resolutions, and already it's only January 14th. What day is it today?
13th. The 13th?
The 13th. I'm already wrong. So one of the first things I thought would happen didn't happen. So that was that we would lose, as in the Democrats would lose in Georgia. They did not lose in Georgia. So I am eating my words happily and a little bit more optimistic for what 2021 will bring.
Yeah, they won, which I was surprised because I kept hearing Erin Marie is my political advisor, and she said that they wouldn't win. So I was shocked.
Yeah, I was shocked too.
Do you mind if I go next, David?
No, go ahead. I'm busy producing over here anyway. So
a lot going on. So as you can tell from my outfit, I've decided to join a fishing excursion in Alaska.
That's nice.
Don't I look like I should be on a fishing boat lobstering or something, or
Deadliest Snatch? Yeah.
Deadliest Snatch.
My real news is we watched season 3 of Cobra Kai. So oh yeah, David, did you watch any of the Cobra Kai?
I did not, but people keep saying that it's good. And how is it good? I mean, that sounds bad. What I mean is go ahead. Yeah.
What makes it good?
Yeah.
So I was talking with a friend of mine recently about this, a friend of ours, Santa Claus, and he said that the reason that what he likes about it are the characters. So if you grew up watching Karate Kid, seeing these characters 30 years later is actually really fun, and they really created a nice version of them for 30 years later. The writing, I think, is just getting worse every season. I would say my favorite season, they rank 1, 2, 3 for me. Although there were some highlights this season, it was my least favorite season so far. So
burn.
Yeah, I know. But spoilers, there were some nice surprises though, and it ended on a high note. So
cool.
David?
That's cool. Okay, I have 2 pieces of news only because Aaron compelled one of them, and you'll see why. But my son, Baby Junior, has become a huge Instagram superstar, and he was solicited, and I'm not making this up. He was solicited to be an influencer and a model on Instagram, approached by a company called April Moon Boutique.
What?
And I am not kidding. I have not answered them back yet because as you guys are parents, so you guys know how to deal with, influencer strategy that you don't answer right away. You let them sweat it out. But I'm not kidding. Like Baby Junior has taken the world by storm. I've been posting him on Instagram, exploiting my child. As you can see in one of these posts, became a very popular post on the internet, exploding my child. Hopefully he'll be supporting me very soon. So yeah, Baby Junior, what do you think about that, Baby Junior? Oh, he's really excited.
He looks really adorable. Where did you?
He's super adorable.
Where did Baby Junior show up?
Well, I actually have had him for a while. Yeah, he's been my baby. He's gonna be like, I don't know, how old is a baby? Like 2 years old or something like that.
Sure.
And then I finally realized, like, when you have a child that's that cute, why aren't you taking pictures and putting them up on social media? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, don't keep him in a dresser drawer, right?
Oh,
exactly.
You should hang him from a noose behind you.
That's not a noose. That's his bungee baby jumpy.
I think we have to acknowledge that there are some listeners that aren't seeing Baby Junior right now, and they should go to your Instagram at David Monster.
Yes, David Monster Inc. I think, and I'll post him on Instant Imaginary Friendlecast or whatever. But my second piece of news, and Aaron compelled this because it's true. Like, I realized that I needed to revolutionize my resolution. I needed to change up my resolution. My new resolution is I need to make enough money to divorce myself from the human race so that I don't even know about things like the insurrection or the voting. Like, I want to be told everything. I want to just wake up every day and be like, oh, it's a great day. Like, I bought some new stuff. And then people are like, oh, like, I don't want to know about things like January 6th. And it doesn't help anyone for me to know. Like, did it help you guys to know that happened? No, it didn't. It just annoyed you and infuriated you. So I just want to be so rich that I have no clue. I don't know how much milk costs. I don't know anything.
Okay.
I wish for that for you too, David. May you get
Thank you.
wishes.
To each.
Thank you.
I don't like bad news, but I like being informed.
What for though? What for? What for? How has it improved the world, you being informed?
I don't know.
It hasn't.
I don't know if that's the purpose.
Oh. We'll see. I'll do a pilot experiment and you guys can be like, well, did you hear that Trump is now the emperor of America? And I'll be like, oh, I didn't even hear that happened. And you guys will be like, yeah, and Ivanka is now the president. And like, great, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, they say ignorance is bliss, so that might...
That's true. That's a saying for a reason.
Yeah, it's kind of up, but true.
Yeah, it's like super true.
Moving forward. Pramila Jayapal. Congratulations on your gold star. Nathan, will you take it away?
Yes, former super unimaginary friend guest, Representative Pramila Jayapal. She's our gold star winner of the week. She speaks truth to power.
And she was a guest here before on
guest.
This podcast. But why this week of all weeks?
So
why this weekend? Who is she?
Well, she's a representative in the U.S. Congress, representing Washington State or whatever district. I forget which district it is. I should know that, shouldn't I? In Washington State. But she seems to be in the thick of it. She was in the gallery. She was with a dozen or so other people who were stuck in the gallery during the insurrection. When the floor was evacuated, she was left, and the rest of those people were left up there. So there's footage of her up there. They were locked in, so they were stuck up there, I think, for at least a half hour before they were escorted out safely, thankfully. But they were really terrified. Recently, she contracted COVID because when they took them to the holding area, there were idiot Republicans who wouldn't wear masks. So she was the second. I think there's 3 Democrats now who have tested positive since then. So yeah, so she's our gold star winner. She's an amazing lady. More and more will continue to come from her I'm sure she always seems to be in the thick of it. And yeah, we just love her, and she's the best. So she's
like the best.
She is like the best.
Yeah, and listener Christopher Davis has informed me that milk has been sitting at a steady price. I don't know what that price is, and I don't know if you guys know. They're in Pennsylvania. The two other hosts. I don't even know what their names are. I'm in LA. People don't buy milk in LA. You guys can attest that. They used to live in LA. People don't buy milk. It's nothing but like almond milk and rice milk, and now there's like lesbian milk. Like it's just. So I have no idea what that price is. So Christopher Davis, if you could let us know how much milk is and what the significance is. But go ahead.
Depends too. If you're we just learned that her husband, our uncle Steve, also tested positive.
For Paul. Yeah.
Love and healing, and they're some badasses. So I have no doubt they'll get through this. So, shall we move into the main event?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Before we do, David has a little infographic. I just want to go through. There's a lot of these terms being thrown around. And David, you might need to take that comment off the screen. Yeah. Just so everybody knows, treason, the crime of betraying one's country, especially by attempting to kill the sovereign or overthrow the government. Sedition is conduct or speech inciting people to rebel against authority of a state or monarch. A coup, with a silent P, is a sudden, violent, and illegal seizure of power from a government. Terrorism is the unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially among civilians, in the pursuit of political aims. And fascism, Democrats love to use this word, a system of government led by a dictator who typically rules by forcefully and often violently suppressing opposition and criticism, controlling all industry and commerce, and promoting nationalism and often racism. Woo! All right.
Those are helpful definitions. I'm glad we covered those. And
yeah.
What's terrifying is they all seem very right now trending.
They are very trendy.
Well, yeah, sedition for sure. Sedition occurred for sure.
So just keeping those in mind, I know that we've all memorized them and we all know exactly how to use them correctly in sentences. But I've found that there's been a couple of times where I'm like, wait, what does that mean again? So moving forward, I'm just going to kind of take you guys through, and this is going to be a non-partisan, as best I can give, version of just the things that happened. We're going to start a little bit before and the things that actually happened on January 6th. Ready?
Let's do it.
Whew, I'm like out of breath. I think my stomach's moving into my diaphragm, and I don't have as much air to work with. So,
well, Aaron, one could argue that what you chose to include or omit is politically leaning.
I tried to get everything, but I might have missed things. So that's why we have live listeners that can correct me, because there's no way that I know everything, and I will not claim to. The first thing is that Capitol was last breached during the War of 1812. So it's been a while.
And when was that?
There's no way to know.
It's impossible.
So, and this kind of, I mean, David's going to go back a little bit more in time, but a lot of this started on December 23rd. Donald Trump made a tweet saying, big protest in DC on January 6th. Be there, will be wild. So it appeared that a lot of organizers in different groups, especially right-wing groups, interpreted that as a call to action, because they started planning on that day. And a lot of, like, I have a ton of quotes from there's a lot of people monitoring all these different forums and places that these groups post. So there's lots of direct quotes. And I'm not going to cite every single one, but I can if need be.
Can I ask a question very quickly? Do you quote any of the right-wing protesters or right-wing groups in that, or?
Yeah,
no?
This is all starting off with so.
Okay.
Trump made that tweet, and then a lot of these groups started planning, basically.
And answering back, saying yes, sir, and things like that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So a group called Stop the Steal texted all their supporters. They said, quote, "We came up with the idea to occupy just outside the Capitol on January 6th. They were going to call the event Wild Protests, and they even created a website, which has been taken down since. And then the call to actions grew violent, and members were seen posting things about being ready to die for their country. And they were sending out like how many police members were in the Capitol. They found out there were 2,000 Capitol police members. They thought that would be an easy number to overwhelm. There were the floor plans of the Capitol, finding the tunnels, arresting the worst traitors. These are all quotes. And another quote, all this bullshit about not bringing guns to DC needs to stop. This is America. Fuck DC. It's in the Constitution. Bring your goddamn guns. And another member wrote, armed with rifle, handgun, 2 knives, and as much ammo as you can carry. So I'm definitely guilty of, this is away from the facts now. This is me. Nathan's cuddling a kitten right now. I thought that this kind of was all spontaneous when it happened.
We need some levity.
Yeah. And, we learned later on that it was way more planned than we thought, but I didn't know how much. Like, this was like just very, very, very thoughtful in not a good way. And then there were plans that were also being made in Parlor, which, David will talk a little bit more about. And they put out a vote, I guess, to see who would be dispatched, quote unquote, first between Nancy Pelosi, John Roberts, and Mike Pence. And then...
Wait, can we interject really fast why they're mad at Mike Pence? Because this cracks me up. Yeah. Do you know why they're mad at Mike Pence? I'm sure you do, yeah. Because
he would have been able to stop or alter the results of the electoral.
Yeah, which he can't do, by the way. He absolutely cannot do that with the way the law is set up right now, but they are mad that he didn't do it.
Yeah.
They say he's a traitor because he didn't subvert the Constitution. But go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna jump ahead in time, but I'm gonna stay on track here.
Sorry, go ahead.
Moving forward, people traveled from all over the country, and there's all these really ridiculous stories of people like 10, 20, 30, 40, like people in these groups on airplanes and like the havoc they caused on the airplanes, like flying to DC, but I'm not going to get into that.
There's tons of video. If you guys want to have a good time and get pissed off, there's tons of video of it.
So Wednesday morning, January 6th, Trump had his rally at Ellipse, which is a park just outside of the White House. And there was a whole bunch of different speakers there. I didn't watch all of it. I watched some of it. And he said, quote, after this, we're going to walk down and I'll be there with you. Although he went back to the White House. He actually didn't go to...
Go ahead.
Donald Trump Jr. said, we're coming for you. And that's a warning towards Republican senators. Rudy Giuliani said trial by combat would be necessary to win the election. So...
And sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean,
I just want to bring everybody back to that definition of sedition.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, are we going to redefine sedition?
No, I mean, sedition is just speech that incites people to subvert, the constitutional whatever. And that's what everything you just said was, but go ahead.
Yeah. So, Trump says we're going to walk down to the Capitol. Everybody walks down to the Capitol. And so some of these guys have on like tactical gear, bulletproof vests, zip ties. They have a noose. So there's all kinds of people armed with weird stuff marching down to the Capitol. And about 1:15 is when there's like 2 men in the front that ripped down a preliminary barrier and rushed the officers who were behind a second barrier. So it was 1:15. That's when the first push to get into the Capitol started. They moved up the stairs. Capitol Police tried to hold them back, but they didn't have any riot shields or anything, and they got pushed around. And they invaded the Capitol from multiple points. There's videos of them scaling walls, smashing windows, breaking down doors, anything to get into various parts of the building.
Sorry, can I interrupt really quick again? Yeah, that was at 1 o'clock where they had their first Yeah. But I want to say that I saw a detailed video of everything that happened, and the protesters started fighting, physically fighting with policemen, starting in the morning. There were physical fights with police starting in the morning. They didn't breach the barricades, but they were, like reaching across barricades, trying to smash the police officers in the face. They were grabbing onto them and beating them, starting at like 8 o'clock in the morning, all throughout the day. So I just want everybody to keep that in mind. And still, nothing happened. The National Guard wasn't called out. Nothing until go ahead. And then 1 o'clock they broke in. But go ahead.
Yeah. So once they got inside, it seemed like that's when it seemed kind of disorganized. And that's my opinion. But so some people were loitering or were like stealing stuff, taking selfies, trashing offices. Somebody stole Nancy Pelosi's lectern. There's that famous photo. They went into a lot of different offices, ransacked them, broke glass. There was smeared poop on the walls. Wooden furniture was destroyed. So there's all kinds of chaos being taking place inside the Capitol at that point. And so then at a certain, this was happening, and Trump waited a while, but he eventually came out and told people to go home, and that they're very special.
And he loves them.
Yeah.
And we love it. But wait. Oh God, I don't know if I should wait. But I want to say that before that happened, Republicans and Democrats were calling him. They were trying to get him on private line. They were trying to talk to him, say, you've got to do something. Numerous people. They couldn't get a hold of him. He wouldn't take the call. He wouldn't respond. Do you know who they had to call to get him to respond?
Melania?
Ivanka Trump. And so she finally says, Daddy, you got to do something. And they wanted him to address the people at that time, but he wouldn't come out and address his own supporters. Go ahead. Oh, wait, one more thing. Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I have to say something because I'm so passionate right now. I want to give kudos. There were several Black reporters in the crowd reporting on it right there where the Trump supporters are. I don't know how they did it. We're white presenting, the three of us. I would not want to be there. Wouldn't you be terrified to be just standing there amongst all those people? And Black reporters stood there and did their job. Kudos to them. I don't know how they did it. Keep going. Sorry, go.
I'll talk a little bit about the press, but okay. Just staying on that timeline, the Capitol Police, they were not able to keep the rioters out of the building, obviously, but there were a number of security that were able to keep the Congress people and the government employees and everyone inside and safe in there wherever they were sheltering in place. And 2 aides, I guess, are being recognized because they had the wherewithal to take the boxes that had the electoral votes safely with them, which could have gotten destroyed or stolen or anything.
My God.
Mike Pence were evacuated. And then there were a lot of lawmakers like Pramila, who got the Gold Star, who was in the chamber while that standoff with police was happening. They barricaded the door and surrounded it with guns drawn, just waiting for them to break in. Thankfully, everybody got out of there okay. But I didn't realize this, but the insurrectionists made it so deep into the building that they managed to infiltrate the Capitol Visitor Center, which is an underground bunker built in the aftermath of 9/11, which is like really, really deep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, which is crazy. And then the first death happened, which was, I didn't know, it was an ex-Air Force veteran, Ashley Babbitt. She was shot and killed while trying to break into the speaker's lobby of the Capitol. I guess they broke a window, like a glass window was broken, and some guys tried to lift her into the room, which prompted the police to shoot, and she got killed. So that was the first fatality. And,
can I interject right here? Because I saw a lot of her. She was tweeting and FaceTiming and recording her entire journey up to there. The whole time she's saying things like, we're going to take back the Capitol. The Capitol is ours. We're not going to let this traitorous act happen. And her family, like a lot of her friends and family come out and been like, we don't know where this came from. Like, she's a smart person. We don't know how she became a Trump culty. But anyways, you got to look at the video of her because it's crazy. It's it looks like someone who really thinks that she's doing something right and good. But go ahead.
Yeah. So the Capitol Police Chief, his name's Stephen Sund, he'll come up later on, so I'll say his name. He called for backup early and got some of DC police, but it just wasn't enough to protect the building. So moving forward, we're around 5 o'clock. Another wave of DC police officers came, and they started to be able to clear people out of the complex. And then later on that evening, the National Guard finally arrived. And they were like physically manhandling rioters and pushing them out with force. So that's when the perimeter was actually secured around the Capitol. It wasn't until much, much later. I think it was like 9 hours of crazy. And then once that happened, then the certification of the election actually continued, which I couldn't believe that they just got back and did it right away.
Which is awesome. Yeah, and they should. And which is, I commend people like, I don't want to, but Mike Pence and some of the Republicans who didn't want to, who wanted just to stop it. But yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't know, I guess apparently the Pentagon, they placed tight limits on the National Guard, trying to ensure that the use of military force remained constrained for whatever reason, which is very fishy. I don't have any more. I don't know why that happened. I mean, I have my partisan theories.
Bitch, no. There's fish on both sides. There's fish. The entire city smells like fish. And I came across a lot of Republican and Democrat officials saying, like, we called for the National Guard all day long. And finally, I didn't write down his name, but finally one of the generals who's in charge of that needed permission, I think, from someone in the White House, and he overrode it. He's like, fuck it, we're not waiting anymore, release the National Guard. Because they tried all day long to get the National Guard to come, but there was a standing order saying, nope, do not release the National Guard. Republicans and Democrats both said that.
I don't want to jump ahead in any sense, but just on that point, I saw that the pointing to the fact that Trump has been filling a lot of Pentagon positions with loyalists over the last few months may have something to do with that.
Cool. Getting back. So I'm almost done with this. We're at the end of the day now on the 6th. There was 1,100 troops in the National Guard, as well as 650 from Virginia that were all sent to the Capitol. They got control over the situation. But when we talked about the press, one thing that I learned later on was just how much the press was attacked. They were screaming, "Murder the media," and people were attacked. There was like videos, like everything's caught on video now, of supporters, like as Trump supporters, I say supporters, like mobbing camera setups, yelling, smashing equipment,
calling them traitors. You traitors!
Saying the media is the enemy of the people. They even took like a piece of cable from one of the news people and made it into a noose. They like almost, we saw the video, like almost like killed these CNN reporters, chased them out.
They were being not welcoming to Fox reporters as well, though. But yeah, we saw that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was all media. I just happened to see that on CNN.
I know, that's why I couldn't believe that the black reporters stood their ground and did their job, which I would have been like, see ya, wouldn't want to be ya.
We got to keep an eye out behind us because the cat likes to stick his paws in liquid.
Oh, how cute. That's cute. Well, we're at a break. I just want to say CB Actor Traveler said that woman who died said she did say that she said she would die for Trump.
What a waste. What a waste of a life. Okay.
No, 100. I agree, but don't, be careful what you ask for. Oh no, I shouldn't have said that. I didn't say that. Keep going.
I'm composed and not political. 6 people died as a result of what happened on Wednesday. 3 other Trump supporters died aside from Ashley Babbitt, and there was the police officer, Brian Sicknick. He died while on duties, and there was also someone that died by apparent suicide. A Capitol Police Force member over the weekend. So they're adding that onto the death toll.
Part of the police force, he killed himself?
Yes. So moving on, January 6th is behind us. A whole bunch of people resigned. The Capitol Police Chief, Stephen Sund, who I brought up earlier, resigned. 9 Trump officials followed suit. citing this insurrection as the reason that they left, and that includes the U.S. Secretary of Transportation, former Chief of Staff, Betsy DeVos.
Betsy DeVos, his ride or die, resigned.
White House Deputy National Security Advisor, Melania's Chief of Staff, so a whole bunch of people. So then the articles of impeachment were drafted, and the House voted today to impeach Donald Trump for the second time in 1 year.
Which is a record.
Making him the first president ever to be impeached twice. And for reasons of incitement of insurrection and repeatedly issuing false statements asserting that the presidential election results were the product of widespread fraud. And 120 people so far have been arrested. That might actually be higher, depending on. Yeah, I feel like they're arresting people regularly, so that number is probably changing. And then big tech went on their rampage. They suspended Trump from Twitter. Facebook and Instagram gave him a suspension until all the peaceful transition of power is complete. And then Parler was removed from Apple, Google, and Amazon platforms.
And Pinterest banned Donald Trump. Pinterest, they were sick of his recipes and
his collages of color schemes.
Yeah, they were not having it.
And then the last thing that I have on this list of things is there's a new, we'll call it a protest or march being planned for Inauguration Day, called the Million Militia March, and it includes specific calls to execute Nancy Pelosi, apparently.
Ooh.
So that is why the news has been talking about nothing but this, because it's absolute insanity from top to bottom.
That's true. It is absolute insanity.
Yeah.
It is absolutely.
I'm so curious to see why Nathan and David dug into this kind of the far right and left points of view.
Can I throw out a center view real quick? That
no,
I'll call it a center view.
All right, good idea.
But I thought it was really funny. Sam Harris on the Making Sense podcast called it the Pizzagate of coups. Pizzagate. Remember Pizzagate? Yeah, this is the Pizzagate of coup. And what's so funny about it is it seems so ridiculous through one lens, which is just subverted by how fucking crazy and wrong it is. So,
let me ask you this: do you guys think that because Trump has been planning it for 6 years? Because he's been inciting, and you'll see all through 2020 he's been inciting violence and getting his army together. Do you think he thought that he would be able to stage a successful coup and it failed?
I go back and forth. I feel like there's some days where I'm like, wow, he's really smart. He's planned this and it's thoughtful and in his own fucked up way. And there's other days where I'm like, I think he's just saying shit and he doesn't know that understand that there's consequences. And so I don't know. I teeter-totter.
Part of me thinks that he thought he'd be so powerful that he'd override everything. I really, at the end of the day, think that. But go ahead, Nathan.
I think you're right in the sense that he has such delusion that he imagined it would work, perhaps. But
yeah.
I flow back and forth like Aaron. It's the thing that's so crazy about what happened is what could have happened. It could have been so terrible. It could have been so terrible. And in that situation, where, there was just bloodshed and people shooting each other and elected officials were being massacred or blown up, who knows what outcome would have resulted, what kind of grip he would have tried to pull. I mean, and, with the question about why the National Guard was withheld, there's, people are really suspicious as to what degree things are, quote, infiltrated.
Please, bitch.
What those percentages are, there has to be some percentage that's accurate, but who knows? Yeah.
It could have been so much worse, and it could have been so much less. What's the word? It could have been so much less too, because it's fishy from the beginning. When you watch the videos, the police at one point just let them in, and then there's other people saying like, well, we didn't know it would be this bad. Yeah, they did. Like, if you everything that Erin went through, and she didn't even cover all of it, there were tons of Republicans calling for violence and tons of Democrats saying there's going to be violence, there's going to be violence in the Capitol. Tons of people knew this was going to happen, and it just doesn't make any sense. You got to see a video showing everything that happens that day and how they just were let in at one point. And they're not, and the Black Lives Matter, they're not even let anywhere near close to it, but they went right up to the building from the morning. Right in the morning, they went right up to the building. No, it's fish from both sides. It's fishy, 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 fishy.
Okay.
Go
Dave,
ahead.
I'm gonna read through some. I'm gonna skip around with some very left-wing headlines or descriptions of what this is all about, and you can maybe counter me, or we can give focus back and forth. But this is how a headline from BuzzFeed: Trump launched a deadly attempted coup, encouraging a mob to breach the U.S. Capitol building because he lost the presidential election. So that's some real far-left propaganda right there. A mob of almost exclusively white Trump supporters took over the Capitol because they believed his claims. Violent mob, thousands of extremists claiming to avenge their cultish leader's delusional claims that the election was stolen from him. It was a terrifying and dark moment in American history. So that's how the far left is viewing this event.
So we have a comment: the mayor of DC has everything to do with the police presence that day. I don't know how that works. I don't know who has power or not in those situations. That could be true. I don't know.
Stepping away from my far left role a little bit, I heard that some question as to, because of all the show of police force over the summer, perhaps there's a desire to not show so much police force. And that
Girl,
the problem.
We have a comment here from a listener. White supremacy and retaining power have become the central platforms of the Republican Party.
Sounds like we have a far left-leaning left-winger on our message board.
well, listen. Oh wait. Oh, do you have more? Because I just want to even comment on what you just brought up just now.
Giving you some space to.
Look, because Nathan did a deep dive on the left, and I went and deep dive on the right. I don't even know why they had those headlines. What they should have done is just quoted what the right said and quoted what Donald Trump said. Like he did. Like on oh God, what day was it? On June 4th, he sent out a letter to a bunch of his supporters saying that this is for patriots only, and you are an excellent addition to the Trump army. Like he's recruiting people for the Trump army. Like.
Yeah. So some of these, I'm going to jump right into because the Black Lives Matter protests have been brought up from both sides, kind of as well, they did this and this is how the police responded there. So I'm just going to give you some left perspectives on that that I was reading earlier today. They're really kind of pretty fascinating. First, so this is actually from our Gold Star winner, Representative Pramila Jayapal. She was quoted saying, "The lack of security in the Capitol is not an accident. It is very clear to me that there were breaches of our law enforcement agencies. The fact that there were no barriers, that they were essentially allowed in, and again, the discrepancy of what would have happened if these had been peaceful Black Lives Matter protesters. Believe me, they would have not have been anywhere near that building, and there would have been a lot of arrests."
Yeah, well, our listener echoes that. He says there should have been way more security. Scarier police quelled the bullshit. Yeah, you're being backed up by our listeners.
Yeah.
Having trouble seeing over the cat.
That's too bad. So Mother Jones documented some 35 times during the Trump years when more demonstrators were arrested than the paltry 13 rioters taken into custody by Capitol Police while the actual insurrection was underway. Disability activists literally dragged from their wheelchairs, Jewish rabbis, and the Reverend Raphael Warnock, who last week became the first Black Democrat elected to the Senate from the Deep South, and even Ben and Jerry. The bulk of these arrests were supporting progressive social justice causes antithetical to the white supremacy that corrupts American policing. Research from the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project found that out of the 7,750 Black Lives Matter protests across 2,400 locations across the country, 93% of them were peaceful. Yet images of burning and headlines of looting were plentiful, with the president referring to the protesters as thugs, which is in stark contrast to saying, "I love you, go home, be safe."
Girl. Well, girl, when white supremacists attacked armed, anti-pandemic for their protests in the pandemic, at Minnesota, he said that he loved them, that they were patriots, that you are very good, you're good people, you're gonna liberate Minnesota, liberate Virginia. So yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So unlike demonstrations associated with the right wing, which authorities attempt to disperse. Okay, so right wing authorities attempt to disperse about 4% of the time. Left wing protests are met with government intervention over 9% of the time. When authorities engage demonstrations associated with the right wing, they use force nearly 1/3 of the time. Meanwhile, authorities use force in demonstrations associated with the left wing over half of the time. So I think, this is kind of interesting. It kind of sums up what I'm trying to get to. Law enforcement officials still maintain that there was no intelligence that suggested there would be a breach of the Capitol. Yet it is widely known that the day was planned in plain sight on pro-Trump forums. That's been coming to light. I think recently the FBI even said something about how there was going to be an all-out war or something.
There's just so many. I only gave you guys like 5 of the like hundreds of direct quotes from a lot of these different groups, messaging boards, text chains, however they communicate, emails, social media. There's some pretty intense stuff that was said.
Yeah, what's evident is that the organizers of Wednesday's rallies were not taken seriously, as white extremists are often infantilized and given room to work out their feelings and blow off their steam. We're told we need to listen to them and try to understand their plight and psychology. For centuries, Black people have stated that this white entitlement to take government property lives is the very core of American identity. And from the time colonizers brought enslaved people to America's shores, to Trump encouraging his supporters to walk down to the Capitol and be strong, this has been the case. So that's kind of the far left view of what's been going on. There were 2 Black Capitol officers who wished to remain anonymous, who said that their supervisors had failed to speak in advance of potential danger and failed to issue vital equipment. They were violently assaulted and repeatedly called the N-word. Several rioters flashed law enforcement badges at them. So the rioters were like, "Dude, I'm a police officer. We're doing this for you. Get out of the way."
Doing this for you?
And that these 2 officers know that many of the Capitol Police white colleagues voted for Trump in the chaos. So it's just kind of a mess.
Dude.
Yeah, David, you want to throw some crazy or some, just right wing?
Well, one of the listeners says every time an arrest is made, takes a cop off the beat. I'm not sure what that means. Is that
do
you
like
guys get that?
Time wait, what is it? Every time when a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. Is that what that is?
That's what I thought.
I think that's what that is.
Takes a cop off the beat. Oh, well, I want to say, like, the crowd, when you see it, they're carrying a lot of Confederate signs. Some are carrying Nazi signs. There were a lot of Blue Lives Matter pro-cops flags and stuff. But you've got to watch the videos. Don't take my word for it. They start fighting with the cops all like in the morning and all day long. They're beating the cops. One guy is trying to grab the face mask of a cop and punch him at the same time, while other people are trying to hold the cop and punch him. They're beating the cops all day long, and they beat a cop to death inside the Capitol. So I don't understand, I don't understand how that's not creating a disconnect right now. How it's not creating division within that group, because they don't care. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care.
I would imagine that those cops who are putting up resistance to the rioters, the protest, I don't even want to call them protesters, to the insurrectionists, are seen as taken by the evil side. They've been brainwashed by the evil side. That would be partially my guess, but
yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, we have a response to that to one of our listeners from another listener. Yes, there's no way those cops could have started arresting those there. They were so outnumbered.
Yeah, that's a very good point. There was talk about if they actually started trying, like the African American cop the Capitol Police officer who you see, he's been on the video of him running up the stairs and kind of pulling people away from the Senate floor.
Yeah,
if he had a gun,
which was brilliant, by the way.
He had a gun on his hip, but there were too many people. You could shoot. Maybe he could shoot what? Like
it'd be a death sentence.
Yeah, he'd shoot like 10 people, but then he would be dead.
Well, no, but he was brilliant because he did that. At first, I was like, "What is he doing? Why doesn't he confront them?" But it's brilliant because they explain later that he's doing it to lead them away. So instead of like trying to have a confrontation right there where they'd be right near, the Congress people and the electoral votes, he actually leads them away. And it's brilliant because the crowd follows him blindly. He's like going, no, stop. And they're actually just following him blindly. They're not bright people. And it's true, they didn't have an agenda. But I do want to say, someone takes issue with Nathan. They say, I take issue with the black view being far left. Actually, blacks are far more centrist on most every issue, Nathan. Girl.
Good, I agree.
Yeah, well, it was interesting, like, because Nathan gave his like far left perspective, and I'm like, that doesn't sound that far left. I was like, that sounds kind of normal.
Kind of struggling with far left. So this is what people think the far left. Yeah, for me, it was hard to find what is the far left. So the Huffington Post, like these are far left. These are the most left leading news media outlets that you can find. When you look at like the spread of media, when they give charts on it. So I went to like the 3 furthest and found some opinions, but they're pretty, I don't know how far you would go. So Trump actively cultivated all of these various militias and right-wing forces. So it's the cultivation entwined with his victim cult. On Vox, which is another far left media source, the reason Republicans in Congress are giving for refusing to break with President Donald Trump. Now, this would be fake news, but the reason that some of them have been quoted behind the scenes saying is that they're afraid for their lives. So they're afraid that their supporters are going to put them on hit lists like Mike Pence is on a hit list, right?
Which is true. It's just true. You see the video, they're calling for they want to lynch Mike Pence. They want to kill some of the other Republicans. They're saying their names and we're coming for you. It's on January 6th. Just review the video. They're saying it.
David, did you say you wanted to talk about some things that further back that led up to this?
Well, it's funny because it's really hard. I understand how Nathan had a hard time finding far left views. It's hard to further any of the far right views is because the 3 of us are so ingrained in evidence and we want to like further something that's true. There's no the first thing I tried to find out that seemed to start this whole thing is that the vote was a fraud. The election was a fraud. It was stolen and there was voter fraud. There is no evidence of that. There is none. And I tried to go to right sites and Trump sites to find evidence. And the only evidence they give is they retweet Trump or they requote him. So I went on groups and pages of people that are pro-Trump. And without attacking, I just said, hey, I understand that you think that the vote was stolen. What is the evidence? And they attacked right away. They weren't nice about it. I was like, look, I'm just trying to find out. I just want the evidence because if there's evidence, I want to know. And all I got back was like the math is incorrect. That was a big thing. It's statistically impossible. Are you that stupid? It's statistically impossible. And I'm like, well, I understand that, but what statistic? Like, what math? Like, show me the math that doesn't work out. And then they just write back, like, you should know. There's a lot of people wrote, there's a lot of evidence. There's a lot of evidence. If you can't find it, you're not very smart. It's like, well, give me one piece of evidence. It would come down to that. Oh, and then someone wrote something like, you should be able to figure it out. The numbers speak for themselves was a big thing. So when I would write back, give me one piece of evidence and I will use that. And then that's when it would end. They wouldn't answer back because there is not one piece of evidence. Trump had to submit evidence when he had the 60 plus lawsuits to try to subvert the vote. And you have to submit evidence. There was no evidence. The evidence was things like I just told you. All of his judges, every single judge that he put in place rejected the lawsuit and said that there is no evidence. So I'm going on that. I'm going on the people that are in those positions and they are Republicans and they want to subvert the vote, but even they are saying there's no evidence. So yeah. I don't know what else to do on that point. So it's like, it's really hard to get behind a right-wing view. But what I did find is we're being played, y'all. I've said this before, we are being played from all sides. Both the right wing and the left wing, the far right and the far left, are really easy to incite. Especially the right wing, because they crazy y'all, and they don't care. There are companies, there's tons of companies, like, I didn't know this, but paid protesters are absolutely real, and it's been verified by Wikipedia, by Snopes, by LA Times, by Chicago Tribune. There's a company out here, it's one of the biggest companies. It's called oh shoot, where'd it go? I wrote it down.
While you're looking for that, like that's a tactic that governments in other countries have used for a long time.
Yeah.
Being in Mexico, and the teachers were striking against the government, and the government paid a whole bunch of people to protest against them.
Yeah.
And it was just like a thing that they did. Maybe they all got some money and
it happens here. It happens here, and it happens on both sides. Both sides have used it. It's called Crowds on Demand, is one of the biggest companies. It's here. And they, on their website, they say, this is your home for protests, rallies, advocacy, audiences, stunts, and political events. And it's available nationwide. And I went to, like I said, the LA Times, Chicago Tribune, Wikipedia, Snopes, and they're like, yeah, these are all used on both sides. So when you see these things, yeah, like, rallies and protests, like, it's not 100%. There are, I also want to, like, because I also tried to dig into Antifa, because that's a huge rallying cry for the right, is Antifa. There is no organized group called Antifa that is known about, but there are groups of people who, in disguise, do things claiming to be Antifa. So, like, there is vandalism and like during Black Lives Matter, there was vandalism in the Capitol, and there was, different violent acts and things like that groups claiming to be Antifa claimed part of, and then they also claimed to be part of Black Lives Matter. But in each of those, Black Lives Matter denied that they were part of it. And the same thing goes with the right wing. There are certain right wing groups and incidents where the Proud Boys would come out and claim it, but there was Republicans that put it together that say, no, they're not part of this. But Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, like, all these Republicans in high office are tweeting back and forth with, like, the Proud Boys, and the Proud Boys are like, yes, sir, I'll be there, sir. And, like, Trump or Ted Cruz will say, like, we're proud to have you. Like, these are patriots and stuff like that. On the left, I couldn't come across that. I couldn't come across Pramila Jayapal saying, yes, Antifa, we're so proud to have you part of our, didn't happen. If you have evidence, we'd like to see that evidence. Please let me know. the right wing, like that's the thing is Republicans, and like Donald Trump is so blatant about admitting or inciting and stuff like that. I tried to find out more. I wanted to go on Parler. Like we said, Parler has been shut down, and they might not come back up. And a lot of right-wing people are using that as evidence that, see, we're being silenced, and that Donald Trump's Twitter account was suspended. We're being silenced. You're taking away his voice. And it's like, wait a minute. He's Donald Trump. He's the president of the United States. He has a press room in his home. Like taking him off Twitter is silencing him. Like he has access to every media outlet on the planet.
I have one thing I want to say about that, but real quick, this comment on the screen that all the complaints went through the courts and were shut down. That's enough evidence for me.
Yeah, totally, 100%.
Ooh. I was talking to a lawyer friend of mine actually just yesterday, and we were talking about this whole big tech silencing, quote unquote, of the far right or Republicans, and I'm like, I look at it and I'm like, well, it can be a slippery slope once you start taking away people's platforms to speak, and but she reminded me that the Republicans fought hard to make sure a lot of these big tech companies remained private and didn't have any regulations from the government. So they're all private companies that are within their rights to do whatever they want, which includes shutting down any account they want at any point for any reason. So, I mean, part of it's just like, well, that's what you wanted, right? They're all private and they're just doing what they want to do.
100%. And I looked into it too. Amazon they released a statement saying numerous times God, where does the statement? We repeatedly warned Parler about its violent content before they shut it down. So they were warned that they need to quell this violent content. And Twitter was started shutting down, certain tweets, and they they formed a special task force just to fact check Donald Trump's tweets starting 2 years ago. So he had plenty of warning that they were going to do, because they would take down his tweet saying this is a false tweet. So it's not like, and come on, like they found that he is inciting, that he's speaking sedition. They don't want to be a part of that. So it's like, it's just, yeah. What?
I enjoy this listener comment on the screen. Evidence? Are you stupid? You should show the evidence. I don't have to show you.
Thank you, Trumpy. It's a long-time listener, first-time commenter, Jessica Messick. She's white. She's not completely white, but she's Trump 100%, 100. She's from Oklahoma. She'll kick your ass.
I want to give you one or two more like super far left claims in these media sources that I found, that there's been an effort on the Republican side that only Republican votes should count. Only Republicans can legitimately win elections, and only Republicans can govern. So I think it was started in North Carolina, where a new governor was elected, and it was a Democratic governor, which was new for the area. So the Republican-led state Senate legislator basically stripped the governor of all powers before he came into office, and gave those executive powers to the legislative branch. And that's just been happening. I think there were 4 states that have done it since. So the GOP, another claim, the GOP has spent years conditioning its members to reject Democrats' right to win elections, to appoint judges, to enact policy, and to govern the nation. So that's what these left-wing media sources are claiming.
Hey, that isn't so far off, because I have tweets from Ted Cruz, from Donald Trump, the president, and from another. There's so many Republicans, like a Republican senator from one of the states where the votes were being contested, where they tweeted, like, starting on election night, dump the tweets, like dump the votes. Get rid of the votes coming in after Election Day. Get rid of the mail-in votes. Like, the Republicans are saying, get rid of these votes. These votes are illegal votes. That is part of their evidence, too, that the right-wing cites, is a lot of the votes were illegal votes because they were mail-in votes, or because they were,
So
sorry, go ahead.
Is there any law anywhere that says that mail-in votes are illegal?
No, and they've been used forever. They've been used to elect Republicans, such as President Bush, who was elected on mail-in votes. So it's like, what do you want? Do you want? Like, it started in the '60s, but go ahead.
There are more because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But aside from that, like, what is so fishy about them?
Well, I know in the state of Pennsylvania, it was the right-led legislator that they passed the changes that are being contested and viewed as illegal now. So it was the right that passed these laws to make the increase in mail-in ballots allowed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a weird thing happening there. I just want to say that, do you think anything, this is another claim by this crazy left-wing media that the position that a democracy led by Democrats is no democracy at all. Do you think that's been nailed in the minds of the right for a while?
Yes, because it
led to many of the right on the right to seem that they genuinely thought that they were saving the nation by sacking the seat of the American democracy to halt one of its oldest rituals. So you got a lot of information and propaganda that's been going on for a long time, apparently.
I do have a comment here about Black Lives Matter protests. BLM protests happened because of speculation. People jumped to conclusions on events before all the facts came out. I bet somebody would love to fight about that. Not me, just somebody. That is a controversial statement.
Yeah, that is a controversial statement. One thing that came up in Pennsylvania that was kind of overshadowed by all this is, did you hear there was I forget what seat, it was a Democrat who was elected to some seat in Pennsylvania government, and the night before he was being sworn in, so on January 5th, he was being sworn in, and the right wouldn't allow it. They protested that from happening, and basically because he was in a very tightly contested race, and they were saying they were going to overturn it. So that was happening on a small scale in our state in Pennsylvania prior to the large scale national version that took place on the 6th.
It sounds like that and everything that I researched, and I know I harp on this a lot, but I'm convinced this is where it comes from, is that the white Republican, white supremacists, and this movement, they're largely Christian, and they have a history of coming in and just mowing down, the area and being like, they're imposing their Christianity, they're imposing their will. And they're just so used to it. So it's like, we lost an election. No, we didn't. We're going to impose our will. And they're shocked that it's not working. Because that's been the history of white Christianity in this country.
So we have a little pushback to that last comment I read from another listener that says George Floyd as a response to Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, I think what I noticed with the Black Lives Matter protests and what is being protested and what people claim is wrong with it is that the views often are talking. I'm not saying this is exactly happening here, but a lot of what BLM protesters are trying to say is talking, and what people claim as to being wrong with that, they're kind of talking past each other and not meeting on the same issue. So that's just something I've noticed. Like someone I respect and listen to podcasts said something about BLM protests. I was kind of like, wait, I don't know if you got that quite right, but he was making a point that I think was missing the point. So I feel like that is often happening with this issue.
I think the big difference between, a lot of people are comparing like, well, okay, so this was one violent protest, but look at what happened this whole last year. There was all these protests. So a lot of them are being compared. But Black Lives Matter aside, you can argue what you want to argue about that. There is truth in what people are fighting about with that cause. There isn't truth with what people were fighting for on January 6th. The election wasn't stolen.
That point was made by a white lady. Go ahead. Yeah, keep going.
Me?
Yeah.
We just went through it. There's zero evidence that the election was stolen. And that's what people were fighting for. So it's like whether or not you want to argue details about certain aspects of Black Lives Matter, go for it. But there's literally no truth to what they stormed the Capitol for. So
yeah, and there is no evidence of that. And the listener very succinctly pointed this out by saying George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Michael Brown Jr., Trayvon Martin. And it's true, a lot of innocent people have been killed by police. And you can't argue that.
No, you can't.
Not innocent, but I mean, yeah, innocent, yes. Forget it. You know what I'm saying? Like people who shouldn't have been killed by police. That's what I mean.
Interesting quote about how the police force is kind of dealing with this last insurrection, this last one, the insurrection in relation to Black Lives Matter protests. So the fact that the FBI is in essence crowdsourcing this investigation, you know, they were like putting up pictures and being like, call us if you have any information on this individual. Really, to me, calls to mind that these kind of earlier moments of terror in our history. So they were referring to like, well, okay, so there's that. But that meanwhile, that the FBI used elite spy planes, a Cessna Citation jet, to surveil Black Lives Matter protests in Baltimore in 2015, and that the cell phone tracking technology on BLM members. So like what force shows up when you know you're going to have this type of these people coming or these people showing up? I think one of the most obvious demonstrations of disparities you have, was it in Michigan or Wisconsin, where the mask protesters were walking in with long guns into the state house, like screaming in the faces of police officers, holding guns in government offices.
Yeah, and they didn't do anything about it.
Yeah, they just stood there. And
yeah,
I don't know, you can imagine a different scenario. So
100%.
Yeah.
One of the most telling moments is January 6th during the insurrection. One of the white rioters was being dragged out. He was being pulled down to the ground by police officers and pulled out, and he started screaming, "Stop, you're treating me like a Black person." So if we're confused about it, the protesters know what's up. They know. And it's like he's talking about Black protesters who are on the street. They're not in the Capitol. He's in the Capitol having smashed a window to get in. And he's saying, you can't treat me like a Black person.
Well, did you guys hear? So there's been also comparisons to how, you know, it's still early in the arrests, so there's a lot of people to be arrested and sentenced still. But there's been some comparisons to there being way harsher sentences to people of color that were arrested during BLM protests.
I'm sure.
To like some of these folks. A great example is the shaman, the MAGA shaman guy. He apparently went on a hunger strike in prison because they weren't giving him organic food. So they caved. And
the judge said he could have organic food. Which is so left. He's right, which is so left and so snowflakey. We got to catch up on a couple of the listeners' tweets here. One says that's why they should have squashed the Trump riot. I think he's saying that because the BLM was handled so harshly.
No, I think because there's no evidence that any of what.
Oh, and that too. And our illustrious leader, Nancy von Edmondson Jr. says, very good point, Aaron. And the BLM movement is so important, so needed. And we have, it's an assault on truth, which is true, listeners. That says it's assault on truth.
Just me, or do we have really insightful, smart listeners?
Absolutely.
We have amazing listeners. Nathan, will you take this one?
Yes, one of our listeners. Did you see that someone posted on Parler before it went down? Trump is trying to get all the pardons before he leaves office. Contact blah, 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 and let him know your name and what crimes you committed.
That's incredible. I wouldn't doubt it. But hopefully Trump won't be able to, because they started impeachment now, so hopefully he won't be able to do anything for the next 7 days.
Imagine if he pardoned everyone that got arrested and then himself.
I'm sure he would. Oh, I'm sure he would. That's so sick.
Segue into what's next.
Yeah, because blanket pardons have happened in the past.
Wait, before we go into what's next, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, blanket pardons. Go ahead, Nathan.
So draft dodgers in the Vietnam War were blanket pardoned.
Wow.
Wow. Oh, okay. Well, that's a little bit different, but yeah, totally.
There was precedent.
Yeah. I just want to say that Aaron has it right. The BLM movement is based on something that's very tragic, and it's something I believe in. I don't know how you can argue this. I want all the people of this country to be treated the same, equal. Okay, but it's true. The January 6th thing is based on no evidence and no truth, and it's led by a man who's not right in the head. Like, these people following a guy who's not right in the head. But I will say, on both sides, we are being manipulated. Not everything is how it seems, down to, the police not having enough police officers there on January 6th, to National Guard not being deployed, to during Black Lives Matter, National Guard already being there, to Antifa destroying things during Black Lives Matter protests. We're being played. Like, so we're not getting the entire true, what's the word? We're not seeing the entire picture. I'm not saying that Trump is right or the right wingers are right. I don't like those people. I don't like the people who support Trump. I don't like the things they say. And I'm not going by anything. I tried to find what they say directly. And yeah, I don't even know what my point is.
There are shady things on both sides, and I think we're just about to scratch the surface of what those things are.
Yeah.
Scratching the surface of all of this, really.
Yeah.
So,
because it's also, I mean, like, there's a lot of crappy things that some of the Democratic politicians do, and I believe that, yes, Joe Biden is corrupt and his family is corrupt, but at this point in time, I don't think they can hold a candle to the Trumps, or even to freaking God, what's his name? He's the minority leader now. He was the majority leader, now he's a minority leader.
Mitch McConnell?
Yeah, Mitch McConnell. I don't think that, like, Joe Biden's family holds a candle to these people, although he's now a target too. Mitch McConnell's a target too by these Trumpers, and they're not even Republicans anymore. Some of them are disavowing their affiliation with the Republican Party because they say that Mitch McConnell is the biggest traitor in the history because he said that, look, Trump didn't win the election. There's no evidence. And they turned on him hard. So
that's where we've come to.
That Trump should start his own party.
Like, the most loyal people in Trump's life finally came to their senses publicly, and now they're being, like, stalked by their own.
No, totally. And I want to catch up to some of the listeners. Jeff Fisher, an amazing person, says, Cori Bush had the line of the day for me, the white supremacist in chief. Thank you, Jeff. That is very funny. I want to say it's funny, but it's sad. Go ahead.
He just have, like, too much of an orange tone to be considered white.
And Sandra Davies Thiessen says, we need to clean house all around. I agree. 100%, Sandra. We need to clean house all around. We need to come at our own parties hard.
Drain the swamp. No?
Drain the swamp. And Nathan, you want to take this one?
Violence by any group is unacceptable. They are profiting heavily off of hate, violence, and division, and in that way, we are being played. I agree with that. 100%.
Totally, 100%. We need, I don't know what we need, but we need something. So there's more. Aaron, you take this one.
Trump should not start his own party. He and his entire family should just disappear forever.
They might.
I agree with that. Oh, the reason why I said I want them all to go to prison. I want everyone to go to prison. I want everyone who's in Washington on January 6th, everybody, Democrats, Republicans, to promoters, supporters, I want them all to go to prison and we start over. No, but I want Trump to start his own party because I want to just be like, oh, you're a Trumper. Like, we can immediately label them and disregard them. I'd be like, I'm sorry, I can't have a discussion with you because I can't. There's no, you won't listen and I can't. So it'll be an easy way to segregate people.
Should we just put them into camps? They can't. Is that what you're trying to say?
Put them into camps and we can concentrate our attention on these camps. Okay.
A good segue, and then we'll get into the future of what's going to happen. So our wonderful listener Joe says, I don't have any political comments, but I'm wondering if the doll behind David is just a mini version of David.
Soupy, it's my baby Junior. It's my son, baby Junior. And if you were listening from the beginning, he is an Instagram influencer, and he was offered, and this is no joke, a modeling contract already. God, the listeners are coming in fast and furious. Let's go. Read the next one. There are too many corrupt politicians that are career politicians. Term limits. Good point. I say 100%. This is for you, Aaron. Go.
I'd say a common view by most people of both sides think that Trump riots are bullshit. I think that's true.
I think that is true too.
Pretty bipartisan, actually.
Yeah.
Totally. And I think that the Republicans are working hard now to distance themselves from Trump. They are, and they're throwing them under the bus. Not all, but come on, when Mitch McConnell turns on you and Lindsey Graham turns on you,
you know it's bad.
Yeah, they're two of the scummiest dirtbags that ever lived. And when they aren't having it anymore,
yeah, I don't know. I'm fucked up on this one.
Dude, and I will say kudos to Mike Pence for being a dirtbag, but being a dirtbag with integrity, because he was like, look, I'm not gonna, like, apparently there's people that said, well, he's been getting death threats, his family's been getting death threats, and there's people that said that he was been screamed at by certain politicians, and Donald Trump, he had very heated phone calls where Donald Trump called him a loser and stuff like that, saying like, you're turning on me, you're a traitor, and I'll let everybody know you're a traitor. It's insanity, and it's good for him to stick by it and be like, suck my dick, Donald Trump.
He did have the opportunity to evoke the 25th Amendment. He opted not to.
True.
Whether you agree with that or not, just
yeah.
To go in, I don't have many of these what's next because nobody fucking knows.
I have a few.
Well, why don't we say what we think happened? What do you think is happening next?
Stop. Let me
get. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, miss. Go ahead.
Actually happening is the House is expected to send the articles of impeachment to the Senate now. And that'll hopefully begin a process of holding a trial to determine whether or not to convict Trump, and which would bar him from ever running again, which is big because he could just come back and run for president in 4 years and this can all happen again, or for any.
Oh my God.
But Mitch McConnell has said that the trial won't begin until after the Senate comes back, which is after Biden's sworn into office. So I think they're hell-bent on making sure he's not thrown out of office before Inauguration Day, but this trial could go south and he could be convicted. We'll see. Nobody knows what's going to happen at that point. And that's kind of where it lays right now. Like, there isn't much like, these are the things that are going to happen. It's just like impeachment. We're in the middle of impeachment and we'll see where it goes from here.
I know one thing that is definitely going to happen. Bill Maher is going to come onto his show on Friday night and say, "I told you so."
Yeah,
he's a pussy
for 3 years.
He's
a pussy.
He's been more right than anyone else that I've talked to or listened to. He's had his pulse on what's been happening to our country.
Yeah, this is like a good point from a listener too, is whether or not the Republicans are turning on him or they're just trying to save their own asses, because it's clear that his reign of terror is over, and that's probably what it is.
Yeah, jumping off the ship that's already at the bottom of the ocean. I agree. Yeah, I can't argue with that. And I agree.
They're also spinning it. So there's like the ones who are jumping off ship. There's the ones who are still defending, and then there's the ones who are pivoting to the tried and true Republican political points of view that are just diverting back to like, well, we can't have those Democrats doing what they would do.
Yeah, well, we have a listener. Yeah. I think the impeachment will survive court. I mean, it's hard to say at this point. Like, once Trump's out of office, maybe all bets are off.
Well, it probably won't survive, but at least it'll keep him inactive for the next week, I think, right?
I don't know. I mean, if he's still president, I guess he could still do stuff, but he has lost his major platforms of communication.
Okay.
Although he can just text us all. Like, I'm waiting to get Donald Trump saying some weird shit.
Dude, we have a listener saying that what I've been saying for the past 7 years, and you guys have fought me every step of the way. She says, what needs to be addressed by both sides is that the election was not a landslide. We need to get together and find some neutral and common ground. All right, yes, I agree with this 100%. And I will say, though, that I don't think Democrats will understand what happened on January 6th, that Donald Trump gave a voice to these people. As insane as it is, and as much as we disagree with it, they have been marginalized for years, like a lot of groups have been. No, wait a minute. I don't think that the racist views and the insane views, but you need to give every group of people or every person a voice, or they're going to find a voice. And the voice that they found was Donald Trump's, or the voice that they find is racism. You know, the reason for my problems are Black people. The reason for my problems are immigrants. And they listen to speakers. And it's a very Christian society where these people preach these things and they follow it. So what you need to do is the only way we're going to get past this is to listen to these people and form some sort of relationship. Some people you will never be able to deal with because they're insane. But within all of those people, there are a number of those people that aren't completely insane and that will respond to communication, that will respond to being treated like a human being.
Okay.
Well said,
girl. Thank you.
Or we could just go back 4 years from now and fucking elect Hillary Clinton.
Oh my God.
I want to throw this in there because it's kind of a downer prediction for the future, but it just needs to be said. And it's not an actual, we know this is going to happen, but it's a, who knows? It seems so. January 6th is the beginning of a new phase of subversive extremist activity.
Yeah, totally. But we need to talk to them. The only way to deal with it is to talk to them. You can't deal with force because they're just going to come back with force. You can't deal with hatred or anything like that. And a listener, she says, yes, I 100% agree. She agrees, so we're doing it. It's on. We're going for it. We're going to do it. And I want to say one more thing. I want to say one more thing to bring us all together. Some issues require conservative solutions and some issues require liberal solutions. And that's just a fact that everyone needs to fucking deal with. Go, what?
I think we're guaranteed to not hold accountable to the degree they should be those most responsible. And they're the ones who knowingly supported Trump. These are elected officials who knowingly
Ted Cruz
regurgitated his lies.
Yeah, there's a general even that said we need to fight. We need to fight because it's taken away from us.
Who won't get as much blowback as they should. I'm predicting that.
Ooh, Jeff Fisher says universal basic income. I'm not totally sure what this is, and I read a little bit about it. I think we should do a future topic on it. What?
Yang's, this is what his platform that he ran on, which was the freedom dividend. You get $1,000 a month from the government.
I would love $1,000 a week from the government. But yeah, so maybe we'll talk about that, Jeff. Thanks for bringing that up because I've been hearing about that and I don't totally know what it is, but I need free money.
I just blew kisses. Someone said, love you guys.
Aw, he's the best.
No. Well, we got to wrap it up. That's
We
a
do.
good segue.
Do you want me to wrap it up with my final thought?
Yeah, as long as it's one and it's quick.
It's quick. It's real quick. A lot of people are suffering in this world. We're having a bad time. Everybody knows about it. Aside from the insurrection, it's a bad time. People are really not doing well. In LA, there are no jobs. People are out of work. Restaurants are going out of business. It's really sad right now. There's people on the streets in their cars on every street in LA because they had to leave their homes. But what I think we have to remember and we have to focus on is there are people that are suffering more than other people. There's one person in particular who we need to focus our attention on. We need to give our compassion to. And that person who's suffering more than anyone is me, because I have entered a new phase of my diet where I'm having moderate cheat days. I'm only allowed 2 low-carb tortillas per meal, 4 cups of popcorn, and only half a pint of low-carb ice cream. And it's been a living hell. And nobody cares. Nobody cares. It's fake news and it's bullshit. And I'm taking back my diet and you people suck.
I'm going to counter that. I think I have it worse. I have a potentially like 6 or 7 pound infant growing in my body. It's stomping on my bladder right now. So I need to end the podcast and go pee.
But wait, aren't you able to eat whatever you want? whenever you want to.
I had to pee. That's what I'm telling you. So we're gonna wrap this up.
We got to go through there's a bunch of, really fast, we got to go through the listeners because they're here for us. One listener says hashtag Yang Gang. I don't know what that means. One listener says it's payments for people whose jobs have been obsoleted by tech. One listener says, this was awesome, guys. Great job. Thank you. One listener says, recall Gavin Newsom. I'm all for it. One listener says, oh, dear God. One listener says, thanks for having us. You guys look and sound great. Thank you for coming. Thank all of you listeners. And one listener says, Nathan clearly cares. Nathan, you care?
I guess so. I don't know.
Nathan's been ready for the podcast to be over for a few minutes. So I think his body.
And one listener says that, yeah, Aaron's fucking pregnancy is more important than my deprivation diet, which I disagree with. I'm going to fight you all the way to the Capitol. Go ahead, what?
I'm just saying thank you, Sandra. And thank you all for listening. It's been a blast. And
Sandra says, I love you, Dave.
We will announce our special guest and topic in the coming week. So make sure you're following us at Unimaginary Friend, Facebook, YouTube, all the places we are. So we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Follow us. And I just want to say, Aaron, I'm hungry, bitch.
See